Okay,
Yeah.
so back.
Back again.
All those so many false alarms, but hey, you know what? It actually that reminds me of a Freakonomics episode where they actually like obviously some Chicago school or some kind of economist calculated the amount of money that is actually wasted, or
Uh-huh.
rather that was used in responding by emergency when emergency services responds to false alarms. Um, it is a lot of money, um, particularly because when it comes to whether it's security systems
Uh-huh.
or fire alarm systems, um, I think it's like 90% false alarms.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure.
And all that responding, we using gas and other
Mm-hmm.
things. It's like it's billions of dollars, or it's like that security systems like cost the taxpayer this much money,
Sure.
or something. Just goes to show that it's like because like the security system, especially not so much fire, because it's this stuff that's required by codes or what have you. But so many false alarms over time. My building was a new building, and we would have fire alarms go off. Usually, it was a problem with the sensors, in that we had a laundry room with lots of dryers,
Mm-hmm.
and the exhaust fan, I guess, would get really hot, and that would trip one of the alarms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
It's
can
crazy.
imagine it would get really hot, but
Yeah, but enough to trigger an alarm. Wow.
yeah, and it happened like I don't know, half dozen times over a year.
Hmm.
So there's some redundancy. So we covered last time about the political campaign in general, like the general. Can you guess the types of committees that clubs would have? Basically every kind of type. Um, but let's see. Let's go through. Let's see. So there's a program committee that just plans what will happen at club events. I think all right. So the point I was making was there's all these different committees that seem to be wrapped up like they're done by one person now, because with a computer and a email blast, you basically, or with the powers of online communication and booking and reservations, it doesn't seem to be a lot of work. It can be done in an hour by one person, all these different tasks. Um, I'm just thinking out loud about it. Why there's so many committees in the past, but in the past, it's like you had all these different people working. You had a dozen people that were just involved, and that would be a lot of votes. It would be a lot of participants. And now it's like one person who feels like, and let's say they organize an event and 10 people come. When it used to take 10 people alone to organize the event, and then you would get 50
Right.
people to come to the event.
Right.
Now it's a success of 10 people show up,
Hmm.
depending on what you're
Yeah.
organizing, of course. Let's say it's dinner out, or uh, book talk or something. Hmm. Let's see. Programs for club meetings should be planned well in advance. This is important in getting appropriate speakers and in planning meetings that are timely. That seems counter, though. If you want like topics that are timely, you need to like
Yeah,
organize
you can be
things
planning.
week to week or something. Like
Right. 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 Right.
here's where like the monthly meeting comes into play, where it's over in all the orgs and activism I've done. It's always been this constant back and forth between like, oh, should we have meetings that are monthly or more than just once a month? And anytime we have them more than once a month, like twice a month, um, maybe because there weren't enough of us, or there's it depended on what we were doing, of course. Like if you're doing a May Day event, for example, and you have a committee that's the May Day committee, there obviously should be meeting every week in April as
Hmm.
they're putting together the May Day event. If it's something else, then it should be monthly. Um,
Makes sense.
Even in Occupy, because that was not a very long time, but working groups pretty much had a weekly meeting. I think some went twice a week, especially if it
Hmm.
was finance. I guess
Wow. Yeah.
they were
Sure.
talking about spending money, and things were changing day to
Mm-hmm.
day. Especially because you had daily general assemblies, and working groups kind of had to keep up with what was going on in those. But sometimes not a lot was happening because of a lot of people.
Sure.
So next is the Social Activities Committee. So how are they different than the program? Oh, a word of caution on programs. Most clubs feel that a named speaker is necessary to draw a crowd to club meetings. And I've encountered this myself by old timers, our
Okay.
elders. Often this results in getting a well known person whose name is a drawing card, but who may be dry as dust.
Yeah.
Since clubs hold.
Yeah. I was just laughing. Yeah.
Yeah, and how? Since clubs
And
hold monthly meetings, they can concentrate on good programs regardless of names. A reputation for interesting meetings is a better drawing card than named speakers.
mm-hmm.
I'm definitely a believer in that. Um, I I think it's just our elders. Our elders care about named speakers, and so they always suggest having a named speaker to draw people in, and the people that named speaker draws in are other old people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, let's say if it's like Zizek, someone who's popular,
Oh, sure.
someone who's memeable, Richard Wolf, you
There you
could
go.
get,
Yeah.
and this is something Richard Wolf would talk about. Like, I'm invited around the talks by
Mm-hmm.
left leaning clubs, and lots of people show up.
Yeah.
So it's not either or, but it depends. A primary function of political clubs is to keep party workers together during the slack period between campaigns. They should actually be friends. Um, Basically just says they should plan social activities. So there's like a main club meeting. I guess that would be more of the educational type, and social activities are separate. They usually are different things, though. Yeah, but it's hard to like people easily get overloaded. But I guess
Yeah.
if it's like one of each a month,
Yeah.
people
That's
can
not too
probably
bad.
handle that. I
Mm-hmm.
think if you try to like have too much going on, people will like, oh, well,
It's
actually,
just too much of a
there's
commitment.
another
Yeah.
either or. Like you have a lot of different things. That way, it's like, oh, I can't make anything that's on Wednesday. Have something later in the
Okay.
month that's Thursday or on the
Yeah.
weekend. It was like, well, I work on the weekends. Well, have something
Mm-hmm.
during the weekdays. Um, Problem with too many nonprofit people is that they have this really inane tendency to have things in the middle of the day on weeks during the week. Like they don't have a regular job, so they're free, but
Right.
no one else is. Only
Right.
unless it's
What do you
other people
expect?
from nonprofits.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah.
And
Just.
it's one thing to say like we're doing a press conference in the middle of the day because we're doing it with legislators and timing it doesn't really matter. In fact, if anything,
Mm-hmm.
if we have in the evening where workers could show up, the legislators will be going home because their work is
Is done for the day.
in
Yeah.
the office building.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a catch-22 when it's a press conference, but if it's a rally, like it'll be 10 o'clock on a Friday. I'm like, why is it then? Or why is it like
Yeah.
4
Right.
o'clock? Like I'm not even out of work yet.
Real. Most people aren't. Yeah.
Although conversely, the reaction to Roe rally that was outside New York's Capitol was right at 5. So if I stayed after work, I get out at 4:30. But a lot of workers, a lot of state workers get out at 4. So it's kind of like when you pick 4:30, you pick 5, you pick 4. Um, Depends, people get out at all sorts of times. Some get out at 6. So you could have events at 6 or 6:30. I find 6:30 seems to be best. By the way, rule of thumb. I find 6:30, 7's a little almost too late. But like 6:30 seems to be the amount of time people can get out of work
That makes
and
sense.
go de-stress or eat something, or the amount of time it
Yeah.
takes to do post-work errands. If you do it at 6, that's usually too early. Um, people
Yeah.
are
People are
usually
still
coming
picking their
late.
kids up from school or
Yeah,
activities or whatever.
people come late when
Yeah.
things are at 6. Uh, and if they have at 7, it's like, well, if you have an hour meeting, you're going after 8. People kind of want to be done with things at 8. I do. I'm speaking personally. So social activities, separate. So then Publicity Committee. This committee has both internal and external functions. I'm sure I don't have to explain all of it, but externally, the committee is responsible for keeping public informed of club activities. So they're just doing outreach, whether it's through media, um, flyering, release must be newsworthy. So here are some ground rules for obtaining publicity. Any press release should be newsworthy. Information must be disseminated while it's fresh. The requirements and the needs of the media selected must be met. News releases should be written in the form and style the newspaper uses. This is assuming people get their bulletins from newspapers.
True.
This is all outdated completely because at one
Mm-hmm.
time the newspaper was where people found out about things.
Yeah. It was
There's
the
no
standard.
one place to go, and so it's actually in this way. This is where the computer age has actually multiplied the amount of work,
Mm-hmm.
like so that the publicity committee is the work of 10 people to not only flyer, to put up flyers, or to get mentioned in the newspaper, but even so, it's just you don't reach anybody with print. To have a site, to get on social media, to you have to game the algorithm, which takes time. It's like there's no like you can never just happen upon anything because of the
Mm-hmm.
algorithms. It's like you have to already be big, which is why it's not like when it comes to streaming and stuff, it's like you grow and you get publicity by being on a channel that's bigger than yours. And I guess in a way,
For
the
sure.
newspaper was the thing that reached the most people. So if you get in the paper, that's like reaching a big audience. What exists, but that doesn't exist for the local level. That doesn't, unless you form,
Yeah.
unless you, it's a really strong thing that we go into an online community and go like, okay, who lives close to each other?
Mm-hmm.
But it's an odd thing that in these communities, online communities, audiences that are sometimes thousands, hundreds, tens of thousands of people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all still so scattered. It's still like no one
Yeah.
lives near each other at all, unless it's like, oh, 3 people are in Philly or something,
Right.
and that's not enough for a club. But
No,
or
not really.
I guess you could start something. But
Well, sure, but
there are such things as meetups for producers.
yeah,
Like podcast produce, like they do have a meetup, they do shows,
that's true.
and then these people meet each other, and then they afterwards. But it's almost like the podcasters should be, or the YouTubers should be encouraging that. Saying look to your left, look to your right. If you didn't come with friends, um, you know, do the thing you do in church. Which is also something that Richard Wolff mentioned, that like all these people came to his talk and they were all looking around like I didn't even know that so many people were like critical of capitalism, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
and he was telling this anecdote in the context of talking about how like there's just no organization. If there was an organization to join, all these people that
Ah,
came to my
it's
talk
always
would have been like
built
they need
in.
to be
Yeah,
organized, and they could have
absolutely.
they could have taken over. This is in Portland, and now there are like Green Party Portland city councilors in Portland, Maine. So probably it was something resulted from that, but yeah, so that needs to be there. And it starts with committees or circles, whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
It was so stupid. The social like in Albany were like they had a split, or at least a very serious disagreement between whether or not to call their like things committees or working groups. It's so stupid to argue about that. Um,
Uh-huh.
so next is
Oh
a
yeah.
finance committee, which of course should be collecting dues. Here it lists dues as being $1 to $5 annually. Um, I think what would that be with inflation? $20, maybe 50. But you know what? Some organizations, well, actually, they ask for 5 or 250 on a monthly basis. So it's usually just a matter of asking for 50 a year. Um, these are frankly aimed at the party hierarchy and prominent community citizens, and dues are set somewhat higher than those for regular membership. Regular membership dues, however, are the club's principal source of income. All right, not single donations,
Hmm.
not a bake sale.
Yeah, not these
I
big
want to
Hail
be
Marys, but
I want to be adamant about that.
yeah.
Too many times. I mean, even now I'm dealing with it with the community radio station. I have old timers, people who are, God bless them, their retirement age, they're over 55. They want to do bake sale type fundraising activities.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, you could raise 200, maybe 100 or so dollars doing that, or we could get some underwriters and be set. But it's like you want to make more work for yourself by doing these little things like bake sales. Not literally, but but
Right.
we
Big sale type stuff. Yeah.
why do I mention bake sale? Because when I was a kid at my mag, we had bake sales for I don't know if it was for the school trips themselves, but
Hmm.
in fact that's the problem. We didn't have any student governance. I didn't know, we would raise money all the time with bake sales,
Yeah.
where we were basically self fundraising, because who's the customer for the bake sales?
It's just
Us
other. Yeah.
students
Yeah.
bringing
Right.
in pocket change or $5 and then buying $5 worth of brownies from ourselves. We were basically we were doing a potluck and then paying $5 to take some baked goods out of the potluck, basically,
uh,
to limit
that's
so
funny.
one person wasn't eating all of it or something,
Hmm.
to share.
Sure.
But it was a way of distributing using markets, and I always found every time we did it, I found it annoying because I found it just so inefficient. Just ask us for $5. We're
Yeah.
not. What are
Right.
we raising this money for? How much are we raising? What, $30, whatever, 40, $50?
Right.
What were
Right.
we raising it for? A school trip? Obviously, it costs more than that. And the
Yeah.
second question, of course, is why isn't the school covering this? We go to a
Exactly.
magnet school. We have computer labs and shit. What the school district can't pay for this? And I had a hard fucking lesson when I was in sixth grade. I actually started. I don't know if it was I started a committee or I don't know how it happened, but I was on a committee with two others, and we were like, maybe it was my own initiative. I don't even fucking remember. But it was like that. We had a butterfly garden, just a flower garden, really, on the back of the school, and it was helped. We helped build it. My father helped underline the planning of it, and so I had a investment in it. And it was not being maintained. The school did not set aside any resources to maintain it. It was something that was done with volunteer labor, so it's like volunteer labor has to maintain it. And me and two others who liked the garden wanted to, didn't like that the fence needed a new coat of paint, and I think some things needed to be replanted or something. And I was like, I made a list of what was, and I'm just a sixth grader here. Okay, it's like I'm not Hey Arnold level organizer, but I we like let's at least brainstorm what we want to fix and what we would need. And I hand this to my teacher, and I it was essentially well, there's no money for this, or there's no, we can't do anything. I basically got a pat, not so much a pat on the head, and but just a nothing came of it, and it was a hard lesson that in austerity politics that
Hmm.
um, if you're going to build something with volunteer labor, then it has to be maintained with volunteer labor, even if it's attached to the school. So I thought it was the school's responsibility. We
Right.
actually see it as a responsibility, and
Uh huh.
now the whole garden doesn't exist. It was paved over.
Oh, jeez.
Like 10 years after I graduated, I was in college then, but it was just let go. Now there's other gardens on the other sides of the school that are maintained by the staff. They are they weren't more serious, but that I thought they were in the same category. Um,
You're right, right.
and they weren't or something. And so it was just so super weird. So yeah, there's my rant about bake sales. We're doing all these bake sales. What were they? What was the money even going to? What were they for? Um, it seemed to be maybe it was cyclical that the money raised was for throwing our own parties, but like for to buy decorations, like the materials for decorations, like our own
Uh-huh.
construction paper. But that doesn't sound right. I'm pretty sure we were. No, maybe we did have to buy our all. I think we did have to buy all our own supplies. So maybe it
Hmm.
was for maybe it was for decorations or whatever, or rather for food for a once a month party. We would throw it once a month in our classrooms. Um, One of which I learned that I hate gum because I choked on this gum and I was like running to the bathroom, like gagging because the gum was stuck in my throat, and I was
Oh
trying to
no.
gag it up, and I was having a really tough time with it.
Ooh,
So I was
sounds
scared.
horrifying.
I was scared to chew gum pretty much after that. Not
Wow.
scared like in a phobia sense, but just like
You just have an aversion to it.
this gum
Yeah.
thing isn't worth it.
Yeah.
Um, it
I
was a
feel that.
funny story. I have my arm over the chair like this,
Mm-hmm.
because I was chillaxed, and someone like bumped into my arm, and that's when like you know got the gum stuck in my throat, and
Oh, jeez.
I was more like I didn't stop gum, but I stopped putting my arm over the chair after that.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah, that's funny.
anyway,
No. Yeah, I totally know what
so
you mean.
social events still in the finance committee section. Social events should be self-supporting, not a drain on the regular budget. Though to me, I think the budget should be paying for events, but this is where it becomes like you pay dues, but then you also have to pay for the sock hop.
Right.
It gets a
It's
little
like,
taxing. It's like, what?
sure.
Come on, um, raise the dues, and then you don't have to put a charge on
On the
the.
events,
And
yeah.
there's something similar to that with fundraisers, where the fundraiser is like it was a fundraiser that we put on for our congressional candidate in the North Country, and we did have a
Mm-hmm.
big name. We did have a big name speaker, not Ralph Nader. He likes coming out to support independent candidates that he likes, who have the kind of messaging he does. Um, and so he was the draw, and it's a fundraiser. So, but we also have a charge at the door. Charge at the door isn't much, but it basically covers the room that I don't know if we were renting it. I don't think we were, but we were using the Unitarian church. And but you have a charge at the door, and there's like a base amount you've raised. But the event is a fundraiser. We're being asked to give
Oh,
money.
jeez. So yeah,
And
just like asking twice.
yeah, and I don't like that, but it's like this is the way it's done. And it's also you're
Yeah.
going to a fundraiser, everyone who goes is expecting that they're going to get out their checkbook.
Right.
And
Right.
the point is like the surcharge is like, a fraction of what you're actually going to give once you're in the room. But the point is that you're motivated to give more because Ralph Nader is egging you on, or he's the one
Uh,
asking you.
mm-hmm.
So the donations come in the form of $1,000 or $500, and that was actually how it goes. You start with a really high number, and then you just kind of go lower as you go. And then once you get to $50, then the room should be standing up. I work the merch bench table at the back.
Ah.
Um, I still have a box of Ralph Nader books, by the way. If you're interested,
Ooh.
email
Yeah,
me
definitely.
and I will send you a book because I just want to get rid of them. You don't no
Sure.
charge. I have Crashing the Party, and
Uh-huh.
I'd have to get it out on the next stream. I don't have them next to me. They're in the basement.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, definitely be interested in that.
Yeah, my I got them because of that event, but also they actually come from when my the co-chair of the Greens, who basically worked directly under him, basically had this leftover box of books
Hmm.
that he just I when he moved, like I held them for him, and I still have them.
Gotcha.
And there's subsidies. Some clubs accept subsidies from the regular party org. However, experts on club operation feel the club should give rather than receive. Many prospective members do not wish to be associated with a club that is obligated to the regular leadership. Once they are members, they will accept a measure of discipline. But before they join, this can be a formidable barrier to interesting them, gaining interest in a barrier to interesting them in membership. That doesn't sound like good grammar to me.
No, it does not. Making them interested.
Barrier to their interest in membership.
Yeah, there. Yeah, there you go.
See how language changes, folks.
Yeah. Well, sometimes for the better in this case.
So yeah, just to kind of give it a general sense, the clubs are the entry point of a party, right? Like there should be sort of like how environmentalist clubs should be the entry into the Green Party, or the Green Party should have a relationship with environmental groups. But
Absolutely.
that is not the case. Most environmental groups either want to be free agents, they don't want to be associated with party politics or electoralism or whatever. They want to be just lobbyists, and they can't lobby Dems if their members are joining the Greens in mass or something like that.
Hmm.
But then it becomes it's foregone conclusion they're going to be Democrats now, or they're absorbed in the Democratic machine, because you're either are or you're not. Um, I'm pretty sure that people delude themselves into thinking, look, I'm a Dem, but I'm not part of the corrupt corporate Dems.
Right.
I guess that's what the squad's all about. But when it comes to what the
Supposedly.
party line
Yeah.
is, they have discipline. They have party discipline.
Mm-hmm.
When it came to Nina Turner, only Keith Ellison came out to endorse her. Only him.
Crazy.
No one else.
Wow. Yeah.
Let's see. Next is a membership committee, as you can assume. They determine the qualifications for membership. So let's read that. A political club opens the doors to as many members as possible within logical restrictions. While some clubs require official party membership or a pledge of loyalty, experts say there is no need for a loyalty oath. That desire to join signifies loyalty in itself. That's what's probably been argued ever since the 60s, I guess, when
Mm-hmm.
loyalty oaths became a tool of oppression. Loyalty oath as far as the country,
Yeah.
the Red
Yeah.
Scare.
That's right.
And so from there, anyone who was part of the New Left was like, we're not doing any kind of loyalty oaths whatsoever. Or tests of loyalty, perhaps even. But there's some downsides. You had orgs that melted away as soon as things got tough, or what have you. That's probably being harsh, but a little to prove
No, I can see that.
honesty.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, for example, with the Greens, like when you're registering for a party, like that's a matter of like public elections. So there is very little that a party organization can do to kick someone out. Okay. I'm just gonna be interrupted, but just for a minute, okay?
Sure. Yeah. We'll chat amongst ourselves. All right. Yeah, this is still really good stuff. It's especially for people that are just thinking about getting into local politics, into not really sure what that's going to look like. It might seem like this, something very serious that you don't want to go there and be made a fool of. Then back once again.
Yeah, it was actually more of the interruption before the interruption,
I see.
or the warning that I'm going.
The warning for the interruption. Yeah.
My brother is dropping off at dinner, so
Oh, okay.
takeout, I suppose. But he
That's
called
nice.
to let me know he's coming, or that he's close. He
Gotcha.
should really just call when he's here, and then I
Yeah. Well.
meet him at the door. But so I'm gonna be. I should probably just go again. But let's see how much. Just much more. Next would be the study groups. We have study groups today. Sometimes online communities act as study groups, but
Right.
they're not really a substitute for in-person
No.
discussion. Um, Although sometimes it feels like with President Sunday, it's like he's doing a study group
Really, I
in
haven't
a
tuned
way.
into any of his live streams yet. Are they pretty good?
Yeah, he needs more brevity. Like, kind of goes a little too long.
He's pretty
Um,
verbose. I'm finding that.
but that's kind of what's like to me his charm. But as far as like his difference between someone who just kind of says the same thing over and over, he does not say the same thing over and over. He is saying something different, just very long-winded,
Yes, yes. It's very
or
thorough.
rather, thorough is the word. Yes,
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Yeah.
because like when he says things, like he actually can't say it in a more brief way,
Mm-hmm.
or it would take a lot of work. So there's participation groups, some which are basically the same as doing um, same as social stuff. Basically, it's just listing like things that people do together. Sort of like how there was like a historical account where someone was like writing in their diary in the 30s in Germany, in the Young Socialists, and her political activity basically kind of she says like what I just go bike riding with the Young Socialists in the countryside, and
Hmm.
that kind of rejuvenates me for the week ahead, where she just doesn't have time for anything else. And she works in a place where everybody's reactionary. She doesn't feel confident about organizing there. She's too tired and wiped out from all of her chores and work. And this is 1932, so it's like you're not going to be able to be a socialist much longer in public. You're
Right.
just having a bike ride, but it's like that's kind of how we feel, with fascism incoming. Um, at least that's we encounter that, don't we?
Right.
Um, Campaign committees. All political activity is ultimately directed towards the campaign. Participation by clubs in campaign activities takes two forms: individual participation in precinct and headquarters, club projects carried out through special campaign committees. It's so weird, it's like the junior party is like people who but they're doing all this stuff that the party would do, or they're doing work for the party, but it's for people to join, like, who aren't ready to be dedicated to a party yet. And yet in being in a club, it's like you are an arm of the party. But I guess that's how people feel when they join nonprofits and other orgs that aren't the Dems. They're not the
Hmm.
DNC, but they take their
Mm-hmm.
orders from the DNC. They do everything. It's like, well, we need to be on the winning team. That's how I guess how it feels,
Yeah, I see that.
or that dynamic is playing out today.
Right.
This is a valuable project in a campaign is generally, or for the most part, because of our postmodernism, that you have all these clubs and social groups and ethnic things, but they're all now purposely apolitical. Um,
Yes.
they do not even will have political speakers come, because that is controversial. It might break some rules that were created in the 70s. Okay, I'll be back.
All right. So now we will chat amongst ourselves while Dan goes and retrieves his food. Um, yeah, I'll take him off the screen just momentarily. Uh, so yeah. Oh, thanks for the follow, Angry Joker PA04. Yeah, we're talking about local political organizing tonight. It's important stuff. Yeah, I agree with Dan and on the premise of this whole thing is that more leftists need to get involved in offline organizing. Online is good. It's good to build your ideas, be stronger in your commitments, realize that there are other people around you. I do most of my political organizing online. It's good, but it can't be the be all end all. We have to start actually making progress on the ground as well. It's good to have the ideas in place and the people committed to those ideas, but if they never actually start making the changes that we are talking about, then then it's kind of all for naught. So you can't, but you really can't have one without the other. You can't have all theory, no practice. You can't have all practice and no theory. Neither of those works very well. One, you go off half cocked and you end up frustrated and bitter because you didn't accomplish anything. And the other, you just endlessly deliberate and muse and dream about things, but never really do anything with that information. So you got to have both. And this is an important component of having both. So, yeah. Um, yeah. Just wait here a little bit longer until Dan gets back. Let's see what can we talk about in the meantime. Um, let's see. Oh, Dan is back once more. Here we go. All right, back again.
Do we actually have any watchers right now? Because I don't have that readout.
Yeah, we got a couple people. One
Okay.
on Facebook and one on
All right.
Twitch. So
Just
yeah,
curious.
yeah.
Okay, so there's a first voters committee. This is a valuable project. So it's listing the kind of projects that a political club would do.
Sure.
That are basically campaign projects. One is for volunteers to fill out, cards. The club volunteers chairman then meets with party campaign committees. First voters is generally handled by young Republicans or Democrats. Typical program includes these basic steps. Check high school yearbooks going 4 years back, when most are now reaching 21, or rather, don't go 4 years back. Just check the senior year yearbook or something, because
Mm-hmm.
this is when the voting age was 21.
Oh, okay. I thought it maybe had something to do with drinking and like you could organize around drinking, but yeah, that makes more sense.
Well, no, but good precinct leaders can furnish additional names. But it's like when most are now reaching 21 or graduated to obtain leads to new eligible people, like just an eligible voter, I guess. So to look
Yeah,
up name, look,
I guess that's the
this
idea.
this is the crapshoot because it's not a guarantee that people who graduated high school are still in the town. In fact,
Right.
most are going to
Especially these
college
days.
somewhere.
Right.
Exactly. This is all pre-future shock took hold. People aren't moving around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Invite the first voters to an orientation meeting where they can learn the fundamentals of voting rules. Basically, do a participation in government, kind of does. One or two party leaders can be present, but their comments should be strictly nonpartisan. This is an orientation meeting, not a presentation of the party platform. The fact that one party holds the meeting is enough identification. Those who attend will carry away a favorable impression of the party that renders this public service. Basically, doing a voter registration drive on its own, you know, is kind of that thing. But doing like a first voters orientation, that's kind of interesting. I was reading the most recent Slingshot newspaper, and they
Mm-hmm.
had a piece called like putting out a disorientation zine,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Okay.
an orientation zine and disorientation, which just a
Yeah.
way of putting out a funky zine. Um, Follow up: send lists of those attending as well as names, and do follow up, of course.
Mm.
Special purpose
Sure.
committees. These are ad hoc ones. They are created to take care of a specific project or look into a problem. When they've carried out their job, they phase out. Here are some examples: to have an elections committee to supervise club elections, nominating committees to prepare slates of officers, flying squads to organize groups of members to do canvassing. It'd be great to have an organization with so many people that you would like have these separate groups that do literally these
Right.
things. Otherwise, it feels like one person is doing all of this, and that's why they get burned out.
Right. Yeah. That's been my
Um,
experience too.
and it's difficult to just pick one of these things and like, okay, so I'm going to avoid burnout by just doing this one thing
Mm-hmm.
without all this other stuff happening at the same time.
Right.
You need it all.
Right.
So it's sort of like it comes back to the earlier chapters where it's like, where do you really start? Do you start with just your block and just trying to like form a party committee, just even if it's a party of 10, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, or some kind of since more people might be more engaged with some kind of more a nonpartisan club that's just about discussing the local issues. Since local media probably sucks so bad, let's do it ourselves. Have a discussion group. I mean, that's sort of what neighborhood associations are kind of for as well. That's a form for doing that, and sort of bringing people in. Auxiliary clubs. We got. Hmm. Okay, this is now discussing the organization of an auxiliary club, maybe. Since auxiliary clubs are formed just to participate in a campaign, their structure resembles a party campaign committee as much as it does a club. Without going into detail, an auxiliary club will require officers and so on. Um, Board, the officers and executive board are set up to handle club policy, administrative type duties. However, the committee structure will be geared entirely to campaign functions such as finance, publicity, speakers bureaus, research, special projects, so on. So here's the relationship of club management to the party. Webster defines a club as an association of persons for the promotion of some common object. Eminently descriptive of a political club, it could apply just as well to a political party because both are associations with a common purpose, success for the party's principles and standard bearers. Though it actually is more described for some parties because some parties don't really have principles, just
Mm.
getting people elected, as they say.
Mm.
Otherwise, what principles do Democrats really have? You can't say it's being pro-choice because there's so many anti-abortion Democrats. You can't say it's about being anti-war because
Oh,
very
so
few
many
Democrats are
hawkish.
anti-war. You
That's
can't say
true.
it's about taking care of people when they slash welfare spending and such. You can't
Right.
say that it values labor when it doesn't support or pass any pro-labor legislation.
Yeah.
It just, speaks to it.
Yeah.
It's
Right. Well,
managed,
that's the
managed.
Democrats.
It's managed democracy, stage managed democracy,
Mm-hmm.
not real politics.
Right.
Um, the definition carries connotations of unity, one of the keys to success in politics. That definition, having principles and being associated with a common purpose. Unity can be undermined in many ways. For example, in an area where people are employed in import export trade, a club resolution calling for higher tariffs could be a source of friction. It is because this is very important in the 50s.
I guess.
Rather, this was important before NAFTA and free trade. It is common for party clubs to have a clause in their constitution prohibiting the endorsement of candidates in a party primary. This is specifically designed to minimize friction between members of a club and between the club and the party orgs. The goal of unity does not require the club to be subservient to the party regulars. This is odd. This is an odd statement, though, because as I'm reading, read through the party version and the campaign
Mm-hmm.
pamphlet, and like the club is not the party regulars, I guess, but they're for all their activities, it's like they might as well be. And
Right.
I
Yeah.
think maybe they are one the same when it comes to us these days. But maybe that's why people are so hesitant to join anything because it's like you have to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
Um,
Or maybe it just seems too cliquish. Like, if you're
and
not already a part of it, then it's gonna take a long time to break your way in.
there's also the cost calculation being done in the
Hmm.
homo economist kind of way. The cost, both time and money wise, for being a member of the Vosh community or the Hassan community
True.
is very low, and perhaps only your time. And it's also
True.
you're not paying anything; you're actually getting entertainment.
Yeah.
almost free, because that's what a lot of the content and things out there online is more about entertainment and
Right.
consuming something rather than being a social person.
Right.
Um, so what was I on about? That's just low cost, so it's easy to join and feel
Yeah.
like I'm in a community. I've
Like you're
joined
part
something,
of something.
I'm
Sure.
part of something, when really like you're not doing shit.
You're just watching videos and
You
having fun.
might
That's
as
all.
well be. I mean, well, actually, I can draw a parallel to like say the fandoms of, or any fandom really, but the fandom of a band. You have people go to a concert and it's like they're part of something because they're in not only a fan base, but like that fan base can be people who actually socialize amongst themselves, like um, juggalos
Oh, sure.
or various they're deadheads. I mean, hell, deadheads are a gang, and there are other kinds of games based around the music
True.
of a band. Um, the Juggalos did something political, but only because the Fed was gonna
They're
classify
gonna
them
be
as a
cracked down on.
gang,
Yeah.
as a gang.
Yeah.
That's what they were opposing.
It's entirely
But
reactionary. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, Lots has been said about our identities being like, and what we join and what we feel like we gives us connection to others is all in consumption acts. Being a market actor. Uh, this is where Peter Coffin does shine when he makes his videos and stuff in his book.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So if you consider the Center for Political Innovation to be like a faux party or like a fake party, at least they're I don't know, at least they're pretending to have a party. Unlike a lot of people who, I guess, they're being realistic and that like they're not, hey, I'm not pretending to be in a party. I'm just not going to be in a party. And I would say I think one is more pitiful than the other.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a question, which is more pitiful? Pretending you're at a party when, or not being in a part, not
Not
being in
being in a
any
party at
party,
all. Yeah. Yeah.
or club even, if a
Right.
party is too much of a commitment for you. Because,
Yeah.
but this is where I get a little like not a little umbrage. I'm like, it's not like a party like forces you to make a loyalty oath, makes you like committed to it in any serious way,
Sure.
and
Yeah, it's
whatever.
all volunteer.
It's not going to, if you're canceled by the party, you're not. They didn't give you your job, so it's not like oh, if I join the party and I'm part of it, then I might lose my job, or maybe that's the thing. If you're a threat,
Yeah, maybe.
that we keep our jobs as long as we're apolitical. I mean, I think that's kind of been the case since the real effect of the Red Scare was making it so that are a you're safe as long as you're apolitical.
True.
In
True.
the way, and if you are political, you have to be political in the ways that we are managing it.
Right. And this is very milk toast,
Yeah. And if you're
non-confrontational.
outside of it, you are a traitor.
Right.
Like anyone who is, working against the mainstream narratives about Ukraine, for example.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I'm not talking about Dor, but
Well,
people smarter than him
not hard to be. Yeah.
who just kind of acknowledge that Russia's winning the war and
Yeah.
all the weapons we're sending Ukraine are just going in the hands of gangs, or will end
Right.
up in the hands of
We'll have
gangs. And
unforeseen repercussions. Yep.
yeah, or it is helping them, but just making it drag on longer, which is just hurting more
Right.
people. Um, I don't know. I was just watching it's just a link video to a guy doing some on-the-ground journalism with a Russian soldier. No,
Sure.
no hint of bias out there, but I mean putting their bias out there. And they're strolling through along. He was talking to him at the port in Mariupol,
Variable. Yeah.
talking
Sure.
about the extent of the damage that it is, 80% leveled or burned, But the Russian soldier, his side of the story is the Azov battalion would set up defensive lines in apartment buildings where they evacuated. They literally kicked the people out of their
Oh,
homes,
jeez.
busted down all the walls so they could move freely, through the apartment block.
Mm-hmm.
And when they need to retreat, they burn the building down.
Oh, jeez.
Um, and so, as far as his explanation goes, the reason why Mariupol has been burned down is because as the Azov battalion retreated to their holding space plant, they burned down the city. It wasn't
Hmm.
because of shelling.
Hmm.
Um, was there
Yeah.
shelling? Likely,
Oh,
there was.
yeah.
But the point is that they were burning down the city as they were retreating.
Yeah. Yeah. Could
Um,
be some truth to that too. Mm-hmm.
that way, it could be used, or just a just a form of scorched earth.
Right.
Um, which is sort of why I also, if not reject, but skeptical of the narratives about these massacres that have been occurring. Um, Not a matter of who's doing them, but just like someone's doing scorched earth. Ukraine says Russia's doing scorched earth. Russia says Ukraine's doing scorched earth. There's like video evidence can't tell you what way the other. Forensic
Hmm.
evidence could maybe,
Yeah.
but that's all going to be destroyed. So
Yeah. Hmm.
um, yeah, it's like many of the crimes against humanity. It's like they're not, no justice, was done afterwards. Um, so the next page is about intra-party fights, because I was just talking about unity between,
Sure.
and how it's enforced between clubs versus party. Opposition to the incumbent party leadership in any given town, city, or county may develop in political clubs. There are several reasons for this. First, most of the people who join clubs are citizens who have not as much political experience. They do not understand that their party cannot subscribe to every policy and ideal they hold as individuals, because it must also appeal to other individuals and groups with different desires in order to get enough votes to win. And this is why most individualists can't do politics. It has to be their way, or they have to at least feel like they're able to maintain their beliefs
Yeah.
while also doing mass politics.
Yeah. You got to compromise somewhere. It can't just be you. Right.
Even in an anarchist collective, it splits up because even 10 people have
Uh
to
huh.
collectively, you know, do this. Um, so, second, some members are politically ambitious. To move up, they must displace the incumbents who now fill the positions they covered. Now, that's a reason why we need more participatory democracy. So it doesn't really matter who's on top. Doesn't you don't need to move up if everyone is equal, or
Yeah.
egalitarian,
Good point.
or everyone has equity.
Right. Unequal
Um,
voice. Mm-hmm.
so that would get rid of a lot of corruption and backstabbing, whatever. Third, as Plunkett pointed out earlier in this pamphlet, and you can do. And by the way, I mean, in a party, you can get rid of this. People politically ambitious, and that's what causes fights. Is if things are really equitable and so you do sociocracy, then there is less hierarchy. It's horizontal, so you don't ambition doesn't really matter.
Right.
A person or a group must develop let's see. Third, as Plunkett pointed out earlier in this pamphlet, clubs are an easy and natural means to build a following. A person or a group must develop a following and build it into an organization capable of challenging party leadership in the primary elections if they wish to, quote unquote, take over. Fourth, the training and political knowledge and skills provided by working in a leadership capacity in a club equips potential challengers with much of the know how they need to wage such a contest. And maybe that's also a reason for all of the preponderance of committees, so that everyone
Mm-hmm.
who's in this club basically has a title. They're running something. And there's a lot of fear in people to run things, to self manage, or
Hmm.
to manage something. It's a responsibility
Yeah.
that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, I find. It
Fair
took
enough.
me a bit of time to overcome this as well. as I was always kind of waiting on others to teach me how to do things and not doing before doing them myself. And maybe I was disappointed in that I did not have a lot of mentors in this way.
Hmm.
Um, Peter, co-chair of the Green Party, is one of them. By the way, we always have a male and a female co-chair.
That's nice.
Yeah, we have gender equity, and that includes someone who identifies as female. I forget if I asked like, what if someone's non-binary? What do they count as?
Yeah.
Um,
Good question.
it doesn't really matter if we have I think at least two different genders. It doesn't like if we
Okay.
can count non-binary as a gender. So if
Fair
you have a
enough.
non-binary person and a male or whatever, or a female and non-binary, that's fine. I think that's what we just go with. We don't stress that too much.
Very good. And hello to you as well, armed with my opinions. How you doing tonight? Talking local political organizing. What are your thoughts on the matter? Love to hear it.
hmm Um, Currently talking kind of about like unity or what causes fights.
Right.
Fourth is the training, political knowledge, and skills provided by working in leadership. Oh, no, I just covered that. So some political leaders feel that all clubs are potential threats to their leadership. It is the reason that some party leaders will
Yeah.
discourage the formation of clubs within the area of their
Uh-huh.
jurisdiction. So when a challenge is justified, party leadership long in power tends to decay. The leader thinking more of his position and the rewards it brings to them personally than he does to winning elections or of backing his office holders and trying to do a good job of governing. When the leadership becomes weak, self serving, or indifferent, it may be time for a change. But that's always separate than policy or ideology, which is sort of where, when it comes to the national conversation, it's like a lot, media figures are talking past each other because some are talking about things as far as just like we need to shake up the party establishment because they're different, not a matter of or their indifference causes them to be out of step with policy. Do you want to read with
Sure. Well, we'll just throw this out here. Armed with my opinion says full disclosure. I'm not a leftist and have been watching your channel to get an idea of how the other side thinks. It seems that your side is taking a page straight out of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Oh, if you only knew where we're getting this from, in order to terrorize the populace, and seize state power to implement your degrowth, high tax, spend-ocrat, degrowth. Who's the one? Who's the right side guy who's thinks
mm,
everything is degrowth? Oh, wait. In fact, I think it was Caleb Maupin. In fact,
well,
who
yeah,
I'm
it's
thinking
it's
of.
that it's the fake party,
Yeah, yeah.
fake MLs. Um,
Um,
they
so
yeah they Peter Caleb Moff and Peter Coffin they ran about degrowth as a
thanks,
bourgeois
James.
ideological thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just the whole like we can't raise taxes if we're degrowing the economy. Um, how we expect to like tax like, raise more in revenue?
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
let's see.
Yeah. I don't see there's anything wrong with that.
But
So
anyway,
the final question was,
mm,
can I ask what you think the public will, why you think the public will stand for this? A lot of us are waking up. So anyway, when we say leftists, it's important to keep in mind we're not Democrats. Neither of us are Democrats. I have been part of the Green Party in the past and identify more closely with socialism and anarchy. Dan is part of the Green Party now, and I would, his Three Leftist show covers the three different flavors of leftism that he is promoting, none of which is elect Democrats. So, nor do we
wait,
think that
well, Armor of Opinions is just doing the general,
right,
um, right, well, not right, but just
not really talking to
reactionary
us.
way of talking about like we are doing politics itself is a conspiracy against the people, or something. But
Yeah.
I mean
Okay.
the text is like it's not just Alinsky. Well, Rules for Radicals. I haven't read it actually. This is
I
this
read
is
it.
from the Chamber of Commerce of the U.S. in
Yeah. So
1956.
not even a
So
leftist organization, pretty firmly in the Republicans' pocket. So yeah. we're just going through local political organizing for anyone
Yeah,
that's
we're just
interested in it.
relating it. I'm relating it to us on the left,
Right.
regardless of one's personal agenda or the agenda you want your organization to have. So I'm not being specific about any of that this time.
Yeah.
We're talking about deciding to challenge the leadership of a party or organization,
Sure.
or the country itself, even. So one of the worst things that can happen is a premature or unjustified challenge to incumbent leadership. There are several criteria, and which is why maybe Bernie didn't run in 2012, or um, usually,
Yeah.
um, yeah. Um, it is not enough to win. The victory must be okay. So first, is the leadership really poor? It is important to develop a thorough understanding of the problems of political leadership before deciding it is poor. A person who is convinced that leadership is poor very often finds, after he learns something about politics, that it is actually doing a credible job. Meaning, it may look bad on the outside, but and this is always kind of an insider outsider thing. Like once you're in here with us, you realize we're actually doing a pretty good job holding things together, and it just looks bad from the outside when we're
Sure.
actually doing a good job. um, I do have that take sometimes. I always
Hmm.
flavor it with the whole like I'm saying this as someone who does know more about the inside, like what's going on you know,
Under the hood. Yeah.
under the hood. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm not making an excuse that this is what's right or good or how things should be. I'm just saying that's how things are working. That's it's not really this. It's it's working as intended in a way that say favors the privileged or the rich. It's not just
That's the system
because
for you. Yeah.
it's not because it's an actual bribe or something
Sure.
behind it. It's
Sure.
not a
Sure.
conspiracy. It's the law. The law is the
Right.
conspiracy.
Well, yeah. Exactly.
It's the system. The system is the problem.
That's a good way of putting it.
Not
Just
what not what individuals are doing that's shady.
yep. Just a time check too. We got about 10 minutes left before I gotta wrap this up. So
Okay,
just
let's see
to
what's
alert
left.
you.
Let me just see what's left here. We're definitely coming upon how to be. I'm going to skip to how to be a regular in a party club.
All
How to
right.
join. There are no formalities to be observed in applying for party club membership. Phone book will generally give the address and telephone number of a club headquarters. If the club isn't listed, party headquarters can furnish information on the club and the person to contact. So that's just interesting. The club is supposed to be like kind of lower down, but it's like you join the club by asking the party. But I guess this is where the clubs are in fact just an adjunct of the party, but that's not how things work now. They're separate because there has to be this air of separation or independence because that's what people
Sure.
value. When really that's not how it works. They are in fact connected some way. Maybe it's funding, maybe they share the same donors.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually it. So you what to expect, learning the ropes. Okay. Learning the ropes is just as essential in club work as it is in any other activity. Good ideas are always welcome provided they are practical, well thought out, and tactfully presented. Almost everyone has ideas. The one who gets his adopted is the one who considers the proposal from all standpoints before springing it. The important thing is that creative ideas are a sure wedge for getting into the heart of club's activities, for becoming a regular. Here are examples of how this worked in actual situations. A newcomer to a party club was assigned to a research committee. So that's interesting. They were just assigned. Maybe they
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I'm good at researching,"
Yeah.
and they were assigned. But maybe it's just no. This is where we have a need. This
This
is
is
what
where
you're
we
going
at.
to do, which
Right.
is sort of how I'm thinking right now. Like we have a need
Really.
at the station, and I'm just tired of waiting for someone to step up because no
Hmm.
one's fucking stepping up. I'm like, someone's going to do this. Someone is going to calendar. If you are fucking scared about it, I'll walk you through it. But it's like it's
But
not
it's got to
rocket
get done.
scientist.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just
Right.
have to look up what fucking events are happening or when the food distribution, the food pantry is open. You write it, You record it. You send me the fucking file.
Send it
That's
out.
the job.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah. Yeah.
if no one can step up to do this, you know, what do we got? It's we might as well close up the radio station. Because we
Right.
can't operate this way. People
No.
have to be told what to do. It's not how anyone wants things to go, but if no one steps up, but you have active people or a roster or a list, it feels like there must be a happy medium, where things are voluntarism works, but I don't see it. I don't see voluntarism working when you need to actually get things done, in the long term. But I look at certain projects, community projects that were really really big and really successful, and it was all volunteer, and it didn't seem to go beyond just having good relationships. And that, as they said, like the first 6 years, we would have to go around and collect money I'm referring to a community barbecue where they raise enough money to basically do a barbecue that feeds 1,000 people. And it's like we would go around and collect the money. And for the first 5 years we put this on, we would go around, door knock, canvas, and we'd collect the money to do it. Now people bring us the checks. We don't have to ask them anymore. Took like 8 years of canvassing
Yeah.
and
8
doing
years of
this and
solid
showing
work.
that we
Yeah.
can do it and have a great event. Then people don't need to ask. They'll go, okay, I'll just send in the money,
Yeah.
or what have
Nice.
you. And I guess that's kind of the way we need to think about our projects. Not in the Saul Alinsky fashion, though I haven't read Alinsky actually. I know that his rules for radicals were more about how to do direct actions and how to apply political pressure. And
Right.
if doing politics is a form of terrorism, then it's all terrorism. It's all
Right. Any
everything,
influence is apparently
everything,
terrorism.
everything is economic terrorism because
uh,
when the landlord charges rent, it's terrorism.
uh-huh.
When inflation causes prices to go up, that's terrorism. It's all
Hmm.
it's all terrorism because you're it's putting you in a position to have to react to it. I
Hmm.
guess. Here's another. A girl who wrote commercial. Oh, okay. This was, they were assigned the assignment since they were a statistician. I just need to finish the sentence. He
Ah, there
suggested
we
a
go.
well developed project to the committee, a telephone poll of the community on various phases of the upcoming election. The club gave him the go ahead, with other members of the research committee serving as the questioners. After compiling the results, he wrote a series of newspaper articles analyzing the survey results or returns. The evening newspaper not only ran them on the front page, it gave him a byline. The articles raised the community prestige of the club and automatically gave him a following that established him as a leader. A little more than a year after he joined, he was elected president of the club. What kind of newspaper gives like a group newspaper space?
Yeah.
Like you submit
Yeah.
what newspapers just take reader submitted articles?
I
I
mean, maybe regular opinion columns, but that's not
Letters to
really the
the
same.
editor are the kind
Yeah.
of is the submissions they kind of go for.
Hmm.
Um Actual fans, like actual articles
Yeah. I haven't
that
seen that.
I whew, man, that's the 50s are truly a different passes a different country.
I guess so. Yeah.
Here's another story. A girl who wrote commercial copy for a radio station joined a club. Her assignment, the Speakers Bureau. She reasoned that many potential speakers, poised and articulate on the platform, were reluctant to accept engagements because of the time necessary to prepare material. She offered to write briefs, to write speeches for them. Her offer was enthusiastically accepted. In the process of compiling speech material, she made herself known to the party and organization leadership. It wasn't long before she too had a following. This is simple: do work, do a good job, and you'll be, recognized. Um, do things half-assed, and you're just going to be the flake. Okay, how to form a political club. It may be that no party club exists in your community or area. This is no problem. The organizational steps to follow in forming a new club are simple. However, you can't just snap your fingers and have a full club blossom. It takes planning, hard work, cooperative effort, and time. But if following the outlined procedural steps, a club can be organized where and when the need exists. And where no club is in operation, the need probably does exist.
Mm-hmm.
So a club can be organized in any community by taking 6 steps. Small hardcore of interested persons plan a pre-organization meeting. So always need that core
Makes sense. Yep.
3 people or something.
Yeah.
2, key organizers contact party leaders, explain their plans, and list their support. 2, the meeting is held to name temporary officers, which would probably be those core 3 people, and plan the meeting at which the club will be permanently organized. By the way, most officers are simply a chair/president, a treasurer to do the money, and secretary to run the meetings. You could obviously change these titles to coordinator, treasurer, and facilitator. The small number who will attend means okay. 3. The meeting is held to name. Next 4. This pre-organizational meeting is publicized. 5. Detailed planning for this meeting is completed, and then you hold it. Okay, that's not. So here's some details involved in these steps, and it goes through those steps. Let's get to. Okay, good. There's no outro or conclusion. It's just those steps for forming. So some details. Small group of key individuals who share party loyalty. So people are already committed, say leftists, let's say, and are interested in forming an active club is easier to manage and get more done than a larger, unwieldy group. I also want to say that the Green Party doesn't really have clubs because we actually have caucuses. And caucuses are not like, because we have a young socialist caucus in the Greens. And the caucus has enough members, they are treated in the same category as a state chapter with voting power. So they're in the party though. So that's the difference. They're not really like clubs then, because I mean they work like clubs, or they have the functions of clubs, but they're just like in the party on the same level as a state organization, because you notice that you have all these state chapters and they're all run by cliques of people, but let's say you have people that want to be represented certain, maybe along identity lines or by ideology like socialism, or it's actually young eco-socialists, I want to clarify. And the young eco-socialists, their main project is doing campus organizing, or to be the arm for that.
Gotcha.
So, a young eco-socialist club on campus, or young Greens, college Greens usually, is kind of their goal, and that's like a club. Contact local, so small number who attend. A hardcore 6 or 8 is better than 50 or even 20 at this stage. I would say 3 is enough. The small number who will attend means that a convenient, comfortable place for the meeting can be selected, but a small meeting does not mean, just do it at a coffee shop, do it at the anarchist bookstore. Contacting the local party leadership, the advice and counsel of practical politicians is invaluable. Most party leaders recognize the potential value of an effective club to party orgs, but occasionally one may view the org with indifference, if not hostility. Such opposition generally stems from a fear that the party club may threaten present leadership. Sometimes a combination of no club and leadership opposition to forming one may be evidence of a real need for one. So it's more motive to do it. So in holding this meeting, just Robert's rules kind of stuff. Have a temporary chairman. Just have an MC. We have modern terms for these things that aren't so stuffy. You just need someone to host the meeting, someone to do vibes checks. Publicizing the organizational meeting. Publicize it, obviously. Oh yeah, and by that, the thing about being a party club or a club that has to do with something means that when you publicize, maybe it's through Facebook groups. No, only a local one. But that's the thing with social media. But let's say it's a local thing. You go through. It's suggesting that you need lists to work off of.
Hmm.
That's who you publicize to. You're not just going out in on the street and flyering for young socialists. You need to go to where the young socialists are, or where if it's a party club, you go to the party rosters. Which is why it's, even though I said greens in my area aren't always the right fit. We want them. We want to be able to have that list.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so following through, this could be expected. The meeting place should be selected, or with organizing the meeting, meeting place should be selected carefully. It should not be too large. A half-empty hall is deadly. All arrangements should help create a business-like atmosphere. Evidence that real planning has gone into the meeting. An agenda should be drawn up. Now, sometimes, oh geez, there was a group that did. How much time do we have left? Are we out?
We're a little bit over, so
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So
if we can
after the
just wrap it
meeting,
up.
just go through that. So anyway, so parting thoughts. Do you have any
Yeah.
parting thoughts about this so far?
Um, Other than I'm just still very much enjoying this, and I think it's an incredibly useful resource for people to have a better idea of how to navigate in their way into groups and not feel overwhelmed or like it's a totally foreign environment to them. Um, I think it's useful, and especially the stuff about managing group infighting, especially with the left. Incredibly useful stuff.
It helps
Um,
to even be in groups in the first place. I think
right,
it becomes even messier when there's not even a group, or the groups
right. So
are
you,
fandoms.
right, yeah. So like, what's really even the allegiance to that we're trying to keep everything together for? So
Yeah,
yeah,
Vosh versus Destiny, or
yeah, yeah.
it's like, what is that? Is that there's not even any political import with this.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Um,
But yeah, this is
so
great stuff.
just to cover, so I do the Three Left Show, a podcast
Yeah,
that's
let's bring it
about
up.
never 2 hours long, but it's like an hour 45 once I edit
It's a
it.
good length for sure.
Um, I have when I do listen to myself, I feel it's too long actually, but that's
I never feel that
um,
way when I'm listening to your
you
stuff.
never feel okay.
No, not at all.
I made a listener of mine, a fellow Green, I guess. He kind of said he feels kind of stupid listening to me or something because
I mean,
I'm so much smarter and I know so much more, and I'm dense. My shows are dense,
they are
and
dense, that's for sure.
that's kind of the problem,
Bring
that
it up
if
even
I'm just
larger.
covering 3 articles or something instead of 5. So that is where I'm shifting with an hour long show. One more episode. Well, there's the one I'm editing now, and then one last 2 hour one, and then I will shift to 1 hour because I just cannot
Very cool.
handle a 2 hour show
It's a
anymore.
lot. It's a lot of commitment, especially if you're
Yeah.
having to do as much research as you put into these shows.
Mm. Well, the thing is, for the last several months, I've been doing articles I've collected and
Hmm.
either half read or read, but two
Yeah.
years ago. So I'm just reviewing them. But
Even
yeah,
still, you got to prepare. You got to know
yeah,
what you're gonna say and stuff.
exactly. And so this was easy when I worked part time. Not easy now that I work full time.
There you go.
But it kind of yeah. So the last episode was my last urbanist episode.
Which I very much enjoyed. I just finished that recently. So
Thank you. The next one is called The End, and I can't bring myself to be pessimistic, actually, though. The point of it was for me to cover things or at least cover pessimistic stories. Um, the next one will be then like a new beginning,
new beginning.
So
There we go.
I'm just trying to like go out with this format in a kind of poetic way. Um,
I like
but
it.
but I'm still just using my leftover articles, so I haven't edited my last episode yet. I'm kind of been putting it off because it was kind of messy, and I had my cough, so it'll be more work to get it down. But work with that. So, but that's what's going on with me with the show anyway. I have uploaded more episodes. I think I have at least 15 on the YouTube channel, so you can listen to them there as well, provided you
Mm-hmm.
have good internet data plan or what have you. But my show is available on all podcasting apps, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
Spotify, Google Plus, iTunes, and so on. So there's that, and there is WCAA, the community radio station that I manage. I'm not gonna say help manage because at this point I'm managing it, and I don't want that to be the case. But I basically spent the winter not wanting to burn out, and but things have been stagnant and maybe going a little backwards even. Um, but I've been trying. I'm doing my best to train people to do what I do, so that the load can be shared, or that at least I could take a break and someone could do it
Yeah,
instead.
right.
But I'm not confident that would be the case at the
That
moment.
sucks. I really hope someone steps up because it's a really
Yeah,
great thing that you've built there, and I'd hate to see that it kind
yeah.
of
The issue
crumble or
is
fade away.
I didn't build it. I was always kind of a sideliner, as it were, doing my show, but being involved with the meetings
Mm-hmm.
and outreach, at least sometimes. And I had to step up. But there's a very this is from Occupy Forward. We have a very important motto: step up, step back.
Hmm.
You step up for something, you make sure you're training a replacement, and then you step back. That way,
That's
you
awesome.
avoid burnout
I love it.
and being power hungry, I guess, or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever trap
Forgetting what you're all
where
here
you
for.
feel like I'm the only person who can do this right, so I have
Right.
to be the one doing it, and that's
Right.
usually why people stay in power so long, or they don't give others a chance. They're like, I'm doing this good, no one else could do it better. There is no alternative, and that is the kind of um, thinking that we need to avoid.
Absolutely.
Pessimism and thinking there's no alternative.
Absolutely. Well said. All right. Well, I look forward to our next meeting together. How many more of these pamphlets do we have to go through?
There's 8, so there's 3 more.
Three
Though I
more.
think they're all pretty. They're much shorter from here.
Cool.
The next one is like the problems of a leader. That should be fun.
That should be really valuable
Um,
stuff. Yeah.
then there is what was the other two? Give me a sec.
No problem.
Okay, so the next one is leadership, and then the one after that is about meetings, which I will have much to say about as a trained facilitator.
Very good.
And then nice little background there.
Yeah.
And
Petition.
and the last one is the businessman in politics. I'm thinking we could skip that one, but I haven't read it, so I don't know if it's worth it.
Guess we'll see.
Yeah. So 2 more at
Two
least,
more for sure. All
and
right.
3 at most, and then we can hopefully move to something else. There's definitely
Absolutely.
lots. I'd like to do community videos, or just other. I've collected videos I'd like to react to, whatever.
Awesome. Yeah, I love doing the reaction stuff with you also. So it's all good. But thanks again for joining me tonight, and look forward to next time. See ya.
Bye.
All right, so that was Dan of the Three Left Show joining me once again. And don't worry, James, you can always find my archives on YouTube. Let me just give a quick link to that. Well, I don't know, that's not mine. Here we go. Here's my channel. Let me just give a link to the YouTube there. So if you missed any shows, if you ever want to go back and re-listen, you can always go right here. Find laid out into as meticulous of a playlist categorization as I've been able to do. All the different stuff that we cover. So this is in this is under the political organizing playlist. So yeah, if you ever want to go back and look at it, that's your way to do it. Thank you all for joining me in the audience as well. Don't have enough people to raid tonight, so we will be skipping that for Twitch. I do tend to like to shout out someone on. Hold on, let me just get off of that for a second. On Left Signal Boost TV, which both Dan and I are members of. We are a collective on Facebook. You can go to leftsignalboosttv.com. Also, another great place to watch our live streams as well. And yeah, let's see how many there is. In fact, let's share the tab so you all can just get a glimpse of what it looks like as well, real quick before we sign off. So here we go, Left Signal Boost TV. So, who do we shout out last time? Let's take a look at who we have. So here's our current members: the Three Left Show, Bread Theory, yours truly, Brenton Lengel, who is an author of graphic novels, also has YouTube channel, also does debates on Twitch, all sorts of stuff there. Dixieland of the Proletariat podcast, Easy Answers for We Are Many, Green and Red podcast, Left in the Basement podcast, Revolution Radio, The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist, The Poor Proles Almanac, The Revolutionary's Garden, Tired Armenian Jew, and our newest one, Unexamined, another great show on YouTube. So I think last time we shouted out The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist. This time we will move on to our good friends at The Poor Proles Almanac. Check out their page. They stream live every week on Left Signal Boost TV as well, so you can always catch them there. And they've been doing a lot of a series on kind of homesteading skills, so some kind of traditional crafts. I can't think off the top of my head of the particular topics, but it's been things like natural dyes or learning how to prepare clothing. I know that actually was one of them. Just ways to live more resiliently with the materials you have. So go check out. Why did that not send? It just went into the ether. Okay. There it's coming up. That is the Facebook page for the Poor Pearls Almanac, another great leftist show who talks about permaculture quite a bit, but also homesteading, leftist organizing, and traditional craft skills more recently. For We Are Many, also, yeah, Trisha from For We Are Many is often on this show. So yeah, we can shout them out as well. But thank you all for joining, and I will see you tomorrow night. I'm hoping. I haven't heard back from Trisha yet about how her voice was doing. She was under the weather last week, so we weren't able to do any of the shows with her, unfortunately. But we'll hopefully be picking that back up and taking a look at just the last few minutes of Chapter 1 of A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, moving on then into Chapter 2, and we'll see how far we get there. So that should be a good time. It always is, as well as a very heavy time, because we're dealing with some really terrible history of the United States, but it's important history to know and not look away from. So hopefully you will join us tomorrow night. It'll be 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on this channel, wherever you're finding me right now. Until then, see y'all.